Hello, everybody. Today, Honey is going to continue reading Wayside School Beneath the Cloud of Doom, written by Louis Shacker and illustrated by Tim Hout. Chapter 3 Up and Down. Up, said DJ. Down, replied Kathy, who sat next to him. Up, DJ repeated. Down, Kathy insisted. In truth, Kathy didn't know what DJ was talking about. She just liked to argue. No matter what DJ said, she always said the opposite. Up, DJ said again. Down, Kathy instantly replied. Shh, said Dana, who sat behind Kathy. I'm trying to read. Kathy turned around. Dana's face was streaked with tears. Why are you crying? Asked Kathy. Dana showed her the book she'd been reading, The Lost Giraffe. So, asked Kathy. The giraffe is lost, Dana sobbed. Well, what did you expect, stupid? Asked Kathy. She didn't like Dana any more than she liked DJ. Up, said DJ. Down, snapped Kathy. Dana, Kathy, DJ, said Mrs. Jules. You're making a lot of noise for silent reading. Sorry, said DJ. I can't help it. I have the hiccups. Kathy turned red. She had been arguing with a hiccup. Has this ever happened before? Said Mrs. Jules asked him. I've got hiccups before, said DJ, but they always went away. Stand on your head and drink a glass of water, Myron suggested. Eat a lemon, said Jenny. Hold your tongue while you say the Pledge of Allegiance, said Joy. DJ tried their suggestions. When he finished, his mouth was puckered, his shirt was wet, and he still had the hiccups. He felt very patriotic, however. I think you better go see Dr. Pickles, said Mrs. Jules. Kathy will take you. Kathy hopped out of her seat, glad she wouldn't have to read. Come on, dummy, she said, and she let DJ out of the door. Up, hiccuped DJ. Down, said Kathy. She couldn't help herself. Dr. Pickles' real name was Dr. Pickle. His office was on the fourth floor. Kathy knocked on the door. Dr. Pickle opened it. He had a pointy beard and wore glasses. Yes, he said. Stupid here got the hiccups, said Kathy. Up, hiccuped DJ. Down, said Kathy. Dr. Pickle rubbed his chin. Very interesting, he murmured, although he was looking at Kathy, not at DJ. Very, very interesting. He told Kathy to wait and invited DJ inside. And he smiles too much too, Kathy called just before the door shut. DJ sat down on a couch. Dr. Pickle sat across from him. He had a long gold chain. On one end hung a green stone shaped like a pickle. Dr. Pickle gently swung the stone back and forth. Watch the pickle, he said. His voice was warm and soothing. DJ's eyes moved back and forth with the stone. I will count to 5, and then you'll fall into deep, deep, deep sleep. Dr. Pickle slowly continued. 1, 2, boo! DJ fell off the couch. Well? Asked Dr. Pickle. DJ got up. He waited a moment. I think they're gone, he said. Dr. Pickle led him to the door. First thing we learned in chorus school, he said, patting DJ on the head. My hiccups are all gone, DJ told Kathy. Who cares, said Kathy. Wait, said Dr. Pickle. Would you mind stepping inside my office, young lady? Me? Asked Kathy. Please. But he's the sicko, said Kathy, pointing at DJ. Please, Dr. Pickle repeated. Kathy shrugged, then entered the counselor's office. The beard is really ugly, she said. I guess your face must be even worse, huh? DJ sat on the floor in the hallway, with his back against the wall, waiting for Kathy. He smiled, happy that his hiccups were gone, although he missed them a little bit too. Hiccups are annoying but kind of fun. Sometime later, the counselor's door opened. Thank you, Dr. Pickle, said Kathy, calling him by his proper name. You are very wise, and I like your beard. That's very nice of you to say, Kathy, said the school counselor. She stepped out of the door. Hi, DJ, she greeted him. Thanks for waiting. You're a good friend. The smile left DJ's face. Something was definitely wrong with Kathy. Let's go up, said DJ. Yes, up, Kathy agreed. Now he was really worried. Chapter 4. Consider the paperclip. Read a book. Write a book report. Draw a picture. That was the assignment Mrs. Jules put up on the board. Dana's picture showed a giraffe studying a map. She had drawn a large question mark over the giraffe's head. Her book report only has to be 1 page, but she had written 2 whole pages. The Lost Giraffe was her favorite book ever. Now all she needed was a paper clip. She searched her desk. She found quite a few pencils, mostly broken, and were lots of eraser bits and crayon nubs. There was also a crumb-covered pink piece of paper that had come off the bottom of a cupcake. Oh no, oh no, oh no, she moaned as she continued to search. She raised her hand. Yes, Dana, said Mrs. Jules. I need a new paper clip. But I gave you at the beginning of the year, said Mrs. Jules. I know, Mrs. Jules. I'm sorry. I just can't find it. Mrs. Jules sighed. I'm very disappointed in you, Dana. I need a paper clip too, said Joe. Mrs. Jules glared at him. What did you do with the one I gave you? She demanded. I think I used it on my science homework, said Joe. I handed that back yesterday, Mrs. Jules reminded him. Didn't you have saved the paperclip? I guess not, Joe admitted. Bibi was finishing up the last part of her picture. Paperclip, please, she said without looking up from her work. One for me too, said Calvin. Mrs. Jules slammed the hand on the desk. Do you think paperclips grow on trees? She asked. I don't know, said Calvin. I gave each one of you a paperclip in the beginning of the year. It was your responsibility to take care of it. She opened her desk drawer, took out the paperclip box, and opened it. There are only 6 left, she said, shaking her head in dismay. Ooh, can I have one? Asked Joy. I can't find mine. Mrs. Jules was too angry to reply. She moved to the front of the room. You children are so spoiled, she said. Do you have any idea it takes to make just one paperclip? She held up one of her last remaining paper clips. Look at the perfect double loop, and the way it gleamed in the light, almost like a mirror. Her anger seemed to melt away as she marveled at the magnificent metal masterpiece. It takes a lot of very talented people and years of training and hard work, she explained. First, there is the wire maker. Paperclip has to be just right. Not too stiff, but not too wrinkly either. And there's the wire polisher, she continued. That too gives the paperclip its special gleam. And the wire cutter, who cuts each wire to precise length. And finally, the most important, the master bender. The bender carefully bends the wire into the perfect double loop. She put her hands over the heart. Sadly, in these rush, hurry days, not too many young people study the art of paperclip bending. There are only a handful of master benders left in the whole world. And who knows, in 10 or 20 years, there might not be any. Everyone will have to switch to staples. That's so sad, said Dana. Mrs. Jules gave the paperclip to Dana. Now, don't lose it. I won't, Dana promised. Let me see, said Phoebe. Dana proudly showed Phoebe her new paperclip. That's so beautiful, said Phoebe, admiring the double loops. I never noticed it before. I'm going to be a paperclip vendor when I grow up, said Calvin. Mrs. Jules smiled at Calvin. She had never been more proud of her student. Chapter 5. Eric, and what's his name? Oh, that's right, Eric. There are three Erics in Mrs. Jules's class. Eric Fry, Eric Bacon, and the other one, who everyone always forgets, Eric Evans. Eric Fry is strong and fast. He's always usually the first one chosen when picking teams. Eric Bacon is funny, clever, and just a little bit sneaky. Everyone in Mrs. Jules's class liked him, but no one completely trusted him. Eric Evans is kind, quiet, and 100% trustworthy. Sadly, that kind of person is often overlooked, but not today. He sat as he sat at the desk, patiently waiting for Mrs. Jules to finish taking attendance. Today was his day of glory. In his pocket was a plastic bag with 83 nail clippings. Two numbers had been written on the blackboard, 71 and 2677. So far, the class has collected a total of 2677 nail clippings. 71 was the most brought in by any one kid. They didn't just have to be toenails, fingernails counted too. Eric Evans took his bag out of the pocket and placed it on his bag. How many you got? Whispered Kathy, who sat next to him. Eric didn't want to jinx his big day by saying the number aloud. Besides, he knew Kathy would say something mean or mock him. Mrs. Jules closed her attendance book. Anyone has any nail clippings this morning? Eric Evans raised his hand. Yes, Eric, said Mrs. Jules. Eric Evans quietly pushed his chair back, but before he could get up, he saw Eric Fry already making his way to the front of the room. 40, Eric Fry declared proudly. Eric Fry had kept his hand in a fist all morning. Everyone thought he was just trying to be tough. Now he opened his fist and let a 40 nail clippings fall into the collection bucket. Well done, Eric, said Mrs. Jules. Everyone clapped their hands. Eric Evans smiled as he clapped his hands too. 83 is more than double 40. Eric Fry did the math on the board. 2,677 plus 40 equals 2,717. Halfway to a million, cheered Stephen. Not quite, Allison told him. Anyone else? Asked Mrs. Jules. Again, Eric Evans raised his hand, but Eric Bacon had already hopped out of his seat and was headed towards the front of the room. He handed Mrs. Jules a plastic bag full of nail clippings. 349, he declared triumphantly. The class went wild. Sherry gasped. Stephen fell out of his chair. Eric Bacon danced around Mrs. Jules' desk like a football player who had scored a touchdown. Mrs. Jules was spectacle of the spectacle. I will count them, she warned. Eric stopped dancing. Go ahead, he challenged her. Mrs. Jules stared at Eric Bacon in the eye. Eric Bacon stared right back. Mrs. Jules dumped the bag on the desk and dived the clippings into full piles. She asked Damien, Allison, and John to help. They each took a pile, and then Mrs. Jules added totals together. 349, she announced, just as Eric said. Again, everyone cheered, and Eric Bacon continued his victory dance. How did you get so many? Mrs. Jules asked him. Eric B. stopped dancing. I went door to door asking my neighbors, he said. Everyone laughed. Leslie had sold wrapping paper door to door, but she couldn't imagine asking people for their toenails. It's easier than asking for money, said Eric. Everyone was happy to donate. He erased the numbers uh, 71 and put 349 into its place. Then he did the math. 2,717 plus 349 equals 3,066. Almost a million, Stephen called out. Not even close, murmured Allison. Mrs. Jules told Eric Bacon to take a Tootsie Roll Pop from her coffee can. He took one. Then, when she wasn't looking, he took another. Anyone else? Asked Mrs. Jules. Eric Evans sat glumly at his desk. Raise your hand, urged Kathy. Why bother? He muttered. Kathy got up from her seat and stood next to him. She grabbed Eric's arm and raised it for him. Eric Evans brought a whole lot, she announced. Bring them up, said Mrs. Jules. He had no choice. It's just 83, he said, and then emptied the bag into the nail bucket. It's the second most ever, shouted Kathy, who started clapping. Amazingly, everyone else clapped too. They were still clapping as he did the math on the board. 3,066 plus 83 equals 3,149. That's closer to a million, exclaimed Stephen. Everyone cheered. Even Allison couldn't argue with that.